Okay, so welcome. My name's Fiona Green. Who's presenting today is the group called Live Words. We're a performance writing organisation based in Bathurst, and we have actors joining us from all over the country, so it's really exciting. So what's going to be happening today is a rehearsed reading. And so that means that instead of a play taking a few months to come to stage, we've had 1 or 2 rehearsals. So the actors will still be on their scripts and reading from there. So let's get going. What we're going to do is we're going to present 4 short plays. They're mostly comedies, and they're written for stage and audio. So first up today, we have End of Our Travelling, and it's written by Phil Sanders. So I'll invite the actors on stage. Fabulous, welcome. End of Our Travelling, written by Phil Sanders, with Neb, played by Nino Giudice, and Twilo by Josh Hayward. Twilo and Neb are sitting on a plain bench on an otherwise bare stage, staring straight ahead. They are dressed in old, shabby suits, and both look confused. Twilo holds the steering wheel from a truck in his hands.
You're here too.
Apparently, as are you.
What? I'm only here apparently.
So it seems, as far as one can see, on the face of it.
You need some independent verification, is that it?
Please. That'll do. All I need now is some independent verification that I'm here as well.
You have my word for it. My hand definitely made contact with something hard and bony, possibly completely solid, to wit, your head.
Thank you. I'm reassured. So...
Now that we've established that we're here, I think the next step, logically, would be to establish exactly where here is.
Here.
What?
We're here. We're always here, aren't we? It's impossible not to be here. If we weren't here, if we were there, say, then there would be here and here would be there.
Sometimes your capacity for philosophical discourse astonishes me.
Thank you.
Now, not to contradict, but if one were a subatomic particle, an electron orbiting the nucleus of, let's say, an atom of gallium, then one could, according to quantum theory, in a very real sense, be in 2 places at once, to be both here and there at the same time.
So you could be boiling an egg, for example, and digging a grave at the same time.
An excellent example of duality.
But we're not, as you put it, electrons orbiting the nucleus of an atom of gallium, are we?
There are many unanswered questions in the realms of quantum physics, that being one of them. However, let us return to the realm of what is often termed reality. The thing is, dear friend, that I don't remember being here. Or rather, I don't remember getting here.
That's funny.
Is it?
Well, funny that I don't remember either. It didn't make me laugh.
Not even a bit.
Perhaps just a jot. Maybe even a tittle.
Okay, so before we arrived here, and the method of our journeying is by no means apparent, we must have been elsewhere, although when we were there, i.e. elsewhere, we would have looked on ourselves as being here.
Well, was that here in inverted commas?
It was, yes. I have a vague recollection of being in the countryside.
What? Fields and meadows and the smell of cow shit?
Well, an unlikely combination to be found in an urban area, you'd agree?
What would we have been doing in the country? We're sophisticated city types. And I believe I have an allergy to fresh air. It brings me out in hives.
All sorts of things bring you out in hives. Have you ever thought of consulting a doctor?
I have. She said I've got cholera, sooty mildew, and possibly purple blot.
So when you say doctor, I've put inverted commas around the word doctor. When you say doctor...
Inverted commas again.
Yes. Was it by any chance the lady who was using a chainsaw to cut down a diseased elm tree in Bicentennial Park?
That's her.
Further comment is superfluous. Now, where was I?
Yeah. Always here.
Yes, but we were trying to determine how we arrived here. No inverted commas. From there, ditto, with no intervening stations, railway, bus, or of the cross.
We could have been drunk. We have been drunk before. We have, as I recall, extensive experience of being drunk. In fact, we have testimonials as to our extensive experience of being drunk from police officers, magistrates, researchers from the University of Wollongong. There's been loads of times when we woke up drunk and couldn't remember where we were.
Yes, indeed. I recall many such times that I couldn't remember. But listen.
What?
Listen. Do you hear the clash of hammer against anvil in the nearby forge?
No.
The throbbing of an underpowered motorcycle?
No.
Does your mouth feel reminiscent of a well-trodden sand dune in the Gobi Desert?
No more than usual.
Is your stomach, such as it is, molten with frothing, heaving, venomous bile?
No more than usual.
Then as I, too, am not suffering from a headache, dry mouth, or biliousness, the detective in me deduces, or induces, I always get the two mixed up, that we were not drunk.
So, how did we get here?
Old friend, I cannot help but notice.
You're good at noticing. You noticed that elephant in Pitt Street Mall.
It was stealing apples from a blind fruiterer's stall. I had no choice but to report it to the proper authorities.
It went to a good home.
Yes. Now, what I cannot help but notice right now is that you are holding a steering wheel in your hands.
Actually, I noticed that too.
Is there a particular reason why you're holding a steering wheel?
Yes, there is a particular reason. It escapes me for the moment, but...
You will have read, no doubt, Marcel Proust's novel Remembrance of Things Past.
I did once glance at a copy in the second-hand bookshop in Glebe, where we frequently repair to avoid the rain, or the hot weather, or debt collectors. This particular edition, as I recall, was very nearly 12 inches wide, which is a foot, give or take nothing. He must have done a lot of remembering, Monsieur Proust. He must have remembered everything he'd ever done in his life to write a book that thick. Every time he'd hiccuped, or gone to the toilet, or caught his sleeve on a door handle.
Right.
I couldn't fill in two sides of an A4 with what I remember of things past. Stupid bloody title when you think about it, stating the bleeding obvious. He could have hardly called it Remembrance of Things I Haven't Got Around to Doing Yet, could he? Unless, perhaps he was an electron.
Yes. What I was alluding to was the fact that M. Proust was propelled into writing his magnum opus after he dipped his Madeleine into a cup of coffee.
Who was she then? This Madeleine? Mrs. Proust? She must have been very annoyed at being dipped into a cup of coffee, although I suppose she would have been comforted by becoming a character in one of the great works of 20th century fiction.
Madeleine was a biscuit.
A biscuit? Takes all sorts, I suppose. I once knew a bloke who proposed marriage to a fisherman's waiter.
Yes.
They made a lovely couple.
Look, what I'm trying to say is that the smell, taste, texture of the biscuit evoked powerful memories in the writer's brain. I'm suggesting that you do the same with the steering wheel.
I don't have any coffee.
Just smell it.
Oh!
Well?
Rubber and sweat.
Okay. And does it remind you of anything?
A house of ill repute in Bangkok?
Perhaps it's a symbol.
I think it's a Ford.
A Ford can also be a symbol, a sign, A sign being anything that elicits a meaning in the interpreter of the sign, but is not the sign itself. Did I tell you I once studied semiotics under Barthes at the Sorbonne?
I thought you dropped out of kindergarten to become an itinerant poet.
Yes, the meaning of a word can be intentional, i.e. a word uttered with a specific meaning.
Cardigan.
Or unintentional, such as kidney failure, seizures, turning the colour of an overripe banana, and vomiting can be the sign of yellow fever.
Right. This isn't helping very much.
No.
Vomiting. Yes. Do you remember when we ate those prawns we found in a garbage bin at North Heads?
Yes.
And I threw up over a cliff in a force 8 gale?
Yes.
It's just like that. It's all coming back to me. We were in a truck. Remember?
Truck. Yes. We'd obtained casual employment.
0 hours contract, $20 an hour between us, no smokos, no lunches, deliver a lorry load of turkey waddles to Melbourne, pick up a cargo of second-hand tongue depressors, and be back by morning.
The times we live in, 2 honest fellows being taken advantage of by an unscrupulous employer. I mean, the man was obviously a thug and a poltroon, and I felt no guilt whatsoever when you told him you had a multi-combination truck driver's license and had once driven a road train from Adelaide to Darwin with only a toilet break in Alice Springs.
So, off we set.
Yes. The excitement that travel and exploration engenders, leaving civilization behind, the freedom of the open road, the exhilaration of speed.
It took us 2 hours to get off Parramatta Road.
Then we were gone.
Yes.
Goulburn.
Yes.
Albury.
Wangaratta.
We didn't get to Wangaratta, did we?
We were nearly there when... There should have been a sign on that bend.
Or a symbol.
A symbol would have done.
So we know where we are.
Yes. Well, not quite.
Suddenly a light illuminates a figure stepping out of the wings. He is old, long white beard, wears a robe.
God!
Oh!
The end. Beautiful, guys. I'm there off mic laughing in my house, which is very strange because I'm the audience, representative of the audience. Great work, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you there to Nino and Josh. All right, so moving on to the next one. Before we get there, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about live words, give you a little bit of a break before we get on to the next work. So we're Live Words and we're supported by local stages, and that's especially by Kylie Webb-Sheed and Heidi Anand, and by Writing New South Wales with a grant. And we do some workshops and we do some writing residencies, and the authors that we're working on with this year are Marianne Jakes, Phil Sanders, Alison Charters, Kay Nankervis, Stephanie DiGiacomo, who's a visiting artist from Sydney, Deb Cook, who's living in Ralston, and Miranda Gott from Bathurst. And so the next work that we have is by Miranda. And Miranda is a writer of short fiction, and she's worked as a journalist, a scientist, and a policy analyst, and she wrote a PhD about bandicoots. And her play Kangaroo will be premiered at BMEC in 2021. So if I could welcome the actors in. Great, thanks. So I'd like to introduce Dog Bait by Miranda Gott, with Melissa Docker as Kath and Alvaro Marques as Sean, and myself as the dog. Ready?
You! Me, Miranda! Hey, stop! Horace.
Oh.
Hey! Hey, meter reader, what about my meter?
What? Sorry, can't hear you.
You didn't read my meter.
Sorry, can't hear you.
You didn't read my meter. Are you deaf?
Yes, I've been sent deaf by your bloody dog.
Horace. Why didn't you read my meter?
The dog.
What?
The meter is behind the gate.
So, the gate isn't locked. Just go in.
The dog.
He won't bite. He just barks a lot.
Nope.
What do you mean, nope? It's your job. Just go and read my meter.
You'll get an estimated bill.
I don't want an estimated bill. I got one last quarter and it was ridiculously huge. I want you to read my meter.
The dog.
Oh, you're joking. Every second house on this street has a dog.
I'm not going to read your meter while you have a dog in the yard with your meter.
So, I'll put the dog in the house.
Nope.
Why?
Move the gate to the other side of the meter.
I rent. You think my landlord is going to pay for that?
Read your electricity contract. You have to provide unobstructed access to the meter. It's in the contract.
Boots walking away.
You idiot! You moron! You effing coward!
Boots quickly getting nearer.
Oh!
No, I'm sorry. Really, I wasn't going to hurt you. I was just going to show you why no dogs.
Whoa. Some scar. Sorry. Does it hurt?
No, it was just I don't usually show it to people.
How did it happen?
A dog.
While you were meter reading?
Yep. Well, the owner put the dog in the house so I could go into the yard to read the meter. And he didn't close the back door, and the dog...
I'm sorry. 78 stitches.
Yes. Oh, how did you...
I was working in the emergency when you came in.
Oh, yeah, right. I remember.
No, you don't. You were so out of it on pethidine.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Okay. Shut up, Horace.
Why do you have that dog?
What?
Why do you have a dog that makes you anxious?
Security.
Security? Well, how secure do you feel without barking all day long? It's like living in a war zone.
I got attacked by a patient. He followed me from the hospital when I finished my shift.
Oh, shit. Were you badly hurt? I'm sorry.
I haven't been able to go back to work.
That's tough. Sorry. I haven't been able to play since this. I mean, I can play, but my arm aches after a while.
What, like tennis, football?
Gigs with the Blue Stones.
The Blue Stones?
Yeah.
You play at O'Reilly's on Friday nights. My girlfriends and me were regulars. You are good. You're the drummer, right?
Guitar, bass.
Oh, yeah, right. I remember.
No, you don't. You were so out of it on vodka martinis.
Okay, yeah. So, maybe I'll come and see you again some night?
No, they found another bass player. Can't do a 45-minute set where I can only play for 20 minutes before my arm starts to kill. But don't let me stop you. Go see the band at O'Reilly's.
Nah, I can't afford tequila sunrises anymore. Not on sickness benefits. And well, I don't like to go out at night. Not now.
A sandwich? Peanut, Vegemite and butter. Food of champions.
Oh, thanks.
Mm. The dog, doesn't the barking make you more anxious?
Yeah, I guess. Neighbours are always complaining. I'm not supposed to have pets. My boyfriend gave it to me after I was attacked.
Well, maybe you need to give it back to your boyfriend.
Sorry?
Maybe you need to give it back to your boyfriend.
He dumped me. I didn't want to go out at night, and I couldn't afford to buy drinks. He said I was boring.
Oh, he's a loser. You're better off without him.
Yeah, maybe.
Stop him.
Yeah, stuff him.
Stuff in 5 ways to Sunday.
He's a dickhead.
A dipshit.
A ratbag.
An arsewipe.
A drongo dead shit.
A freckle fart from Kmart.
A knobbly blue from Big W.
A pig's bum needle knob.
A pud pulling pig porker.
A wank dick flop.
Not a fart.
I better get on with my round.
Thanks.
Sure. Yes, and to you.
See you next time.
Shut the dog in the house and I'll read the meter.
Really? Okay. Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Sound of metal gate being opened.
Boris? Boris! No! No!
The end. Thank you, guys. Fabulous. Thank you to Mel and Alvaro.
It was fun. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much. All right. So just before we go on to the next one, we're going to have a chat with the author. So if Miranda, you'd like to turn on your video. So people have said, this is the author, the lovely Miranda. People have said this is a really touching play. Why do you think people say that?
Oh, look, I think we all understand those interactions that we sometimes have with strangers that are just very warm and human, and they bring a kind of lightness to our lives. You know, we can quite quickly come to points of understanding over small things, and yeah, I love those moments.
Is there anything else about this play that is kind of that why you wrote it, or that kind of comes up when you see it?
Well, my partner Tim was a part-time meter reader for 10 years, 15 actually, and he has the scars, the dog bite scars to prove it. And yeah, so I guess, you know, he told me a story about being attacked by a dog while he was meter reading once that left him in hospital. So that was, I guess, the starting point. I wanted to build on that. But I think, you know, those sort of, those great big colorbond suburbs that we see in every town, including Bathurst with their big fences, and I think people are very isolated sometimes, as we all know about isolation now, and sometimes it's those, you know, small accidental interactions that warm up our lives.
Thanks, Miranda. Great. Thanks for having you along. All right. Okay, so next we're going to be moving on to a play. Actually, if you want to turn off your video there, Miranda. Thanks. So next up, we're going to move on to a play by me. And so this is actually quite tricky to read. So Kay Nankervis will be joining us, and she does a very good job because I write a little bit more experimentally, a little bit more dreamy than the standard play. So it's a tricky script, and so I'd like to invite Kay Nankervis to the stage. Thank you so much. All right, so this is a play called Congestion by Fiona Green, with Lisa, played by Kay Nankervis. So Lisa is standing at the front of a lecture theatre.
Thanks everyone, and try to get your 2,000 word masterpieces to the digital place by 5 p.m. so I can mark them over the weekend. Yes, if they come in early, I'm meaning if they come in on time before 5 p.m, not 7 or 9 p.m, you'll get them back first. Yes, a day or two different. Huge privilege. Great. Have a good life and see you next week. Can the person who is leaving love poems on my car please stop? I think your poetry is improving.
Lisa is in therapy.
You don't understand. I have to. If I don't go for the ongoing contract, I won't ever have any kind of security. No ability to really settle down, be stable, no home. I could buy a home if I had an ongoing. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say that I hate my job and I hate all the meetings and all the pressure to publish. But I like things too. I like the students and marking their assignments, and I like writing lectures and the structure. Structure in time and structure in words. When I had time for writing, just being at home writing, like I always imagined, I just curled up on the couch and started counting the stars behind my whiskey goggles. I don't know the definition of an alcoholic, but I think I was one. And I don't think a job you don't like is better than that. Where do you start from when what you always imagine turns out to be nothing? I got what I wanted, time to write. I tried to make it work. I don't mean nothing, but you know what I mean, like the whole big thing that I thought about for so long, and it's moved or gone. When you want something to tie you down to why you're doing things. Well, I reach, but I just find nothing. Nothing. Floating space. It's just not there. I guess I could get another job. I could be a librarian or a copywriter or something, like a company that needs, you know, a bit of class. God, I'm so sheltered. I think that if I got a real job, it'd just be different, and I'd write and I'd be happy. And for fuck's sake, stop me. I'm completely boring myself. Between thinking them and then the words coming out of my mouth, I seem to have lost faith in them. Does that happen in therapy much? People boring themselves into silence? Maybe I should start a new novel, which is the most tedious therapy session ever. A therapy session so long, the therapist dies and starts to decompose, and the writer character keeps talking and talking and talking. The writer doesn't even notice the therapist is now dead and starting to grow mold because the words somehow fill her, bloat her. Empty words like they're junk food, junk words. Oh, not that I want to kill you. Now that I've said that, it sounds like I do want to kill you. I really don't. I've just got this great talent for coming up with words with the worst ideas for novels. I know some people are good at sports or drawing naked people. I like to think it's good to mention the idea just to get them out of my brain so I don't start writing them in my head during the day while I'm working. The brain does that, doesn't it? It goes on tangents you don't want it to when you're not looking, when you're making a sandwich or driving the car or...
A new therapy session.
I've been thinking about what you said about that contract and I've decided to go for it. I'm going to go for it and just do the best bang-up job I can. I'll write an application and do the interviews and organise everything. It'll be great to get everything organised and I'll feel energetic and refreshed because I'm going for it. Yeah, going for it. But I will do it because it's the right thing to do, and that's what people do. They do the right thing. I'm going to support my future. I'm going to make a choice that when I say it at barbecues, people nod and look at me with respect. Not someone who just dribbles questions. I like questions, but they make other people awkward. Like I'm asking people to answer them. My favourite thing is just to keep rolling through the questions, like I eat one and I digest it and then I vomit another one, and it's sweet and not that bitter vomit taste. I can see why people don't like talking to me. I'll say, yes, I have this fabulous job, and not, why do you think people buy so many expensive shoes, and can you fetishize anything? And do you think I could deliberately develop a shoe fetish, if I tried? I'd say, I have this fabulous job. And they'd look at me like I'm a person who makes good decisions. It's a test that lets me know if I'm being a complete twat and ruining my life by following my fucked up, self-serving, irrational and persistently destructive impulses. God, I love therapy. I can indulge in my taste for adjectives. I just say them. All those words I can't use when I'm talking to real people. I wonder if it's good for me. Oh, not that you're not real. I absolutely think you're real. Maybe it's bad to indulge these words. Maybe therapy is one of my stupid impulses. Maybe therapy is actually what is stopping me writing. Maybe all my words are being sucked out of me and there are none left for the page. And it's actually causing me to become less particular about my words because I'm practicing not being judged. And while I might be becoming a more authentic writer, I'm also becoming a writer nobody will read because I'm an indulgent, superficial thinking egomaniac. Shit! What do you think? Okay, people, some preliminary feedback on those essays. I haven't finished marking them all. And yes, I'm going to release those who submitted them by 5 p.m. a day early. Yes, I know. So cruel. Anyway, they're good, mostly. Problems are the usual. You forgot to answer the question. Please answer the question. A list of unrelated ideas is not an answer. You need structure. Without structure, there's no form and it doesn't mean anything. Jesus Christ. Doesn't it feel like a revolving fucking door? Here I am, back again, purging all my frustrations on you. But where does it get me? Honestly, where does it get you? Are you writing a book? Maybe it does get you somewhere. Am I doing therapy wrong? Aren't I supposed to be doing this in some way that lets me move on with my life? I got another poem. They really are getting better. Like somehow the process of being rejected is stripping away the artifice. And I know it sounds like I'm marking them. What am I supposed to do? That's the way I respond to the world. I mark it. I see and watch and observe it and see how it acts on me, and then I respond. When I say that out loud, it sounds wrong. like the only interaction I'm having is with myself. Isn't that what anyone is having in the end? You know, interactions with themselves. That's a dodge, isn't it? But this feels different. I have no moments when I actually look into someone's. But I did have a moment with this poem. I looked at it in its scrawled imperfection, and I was moved that someone else was moved, that they were moved so much by their own quiet hope. And I imagined that I would someday be holding a piece of paper on which I inscribed my own love. Here it is. This piece of paper. That's real, isn't it? I'm having a real connection, aren't I? Oh, God. I'm having a real connection with a student. Oh, maybe it's not a student. Maybe it's a faculty member who just leaves notes on my lectern. No, that's probably not right. It's probably a student by the way they say they're attending my class. I'm having a connection with a student. I'm allowed to be moved by a human being, aren't I? I'm not saying I'm physically attracted to this student. I don't even know who they are. They might be a blonde. Oh, I don't know why I said that. Of course, blondes are fine. No one could say I was being predatory. They're the one being predatory on me. I'd tell them to stop every single lecture. Maybe it's a copycat. Maybe I should stop saying I'm receiving love poems in lectures. Maybe I should stop saying I'm receiving love poems. Now I'm imagining there's a Facebook page dedicated to the crazy lecturer who tells their students not to send love poems, not to write them. Oh, why the hell did I keep telling students I was receiving love poems? That's probably inappropriate. God, if someone complains, I'm never going to get that contract. Like it's sexual harassment by even talking about sex to students. I mean, poems to students. That can't be sexual harassment, talking about poems, especially when all you say is, please don't leave poems for me. Oh, God, why did I keep saying it? I just wanted them to stop. Why did I keep saying it? Maybe there is something wrong with me. Maybe there's an absence where the rest of the world should file through my life. I've built walls, I've cut myself off, and now I do strange things like talk about love poetry in class in front of hundreds of people each week. If there are other people, if I were in a relationship, that person would have said, Lisa, maybe just tell your supervisor and ignore it. I make all these mistakes because I'm not in a relationship. I should be writing about this. This is my real life. Why can't I write? I look into my soul and see a child with a stitched up mouth. I carefully take out the stitches with tweezers. And then I see she has no tongue. Do you think it's a girl or a boy leaving me the poems? I mean, what do you think? Do you want to read them? I need someone to tell me what's going on. Sometimes it would be useful if you just actually told me what you think. I am the one who's paying. Sorry. Maybe I just need a friend. You don't judge, though. I like that. Maybe I'm getting the hang of this therapy thing. It's not helping my writing, though, yet. I'm still not writing. And that's what I came for. I came in here and said, I want to start writing again. I want to finish my novel. I've got a nearly first draft. My friend said it was good. Strange, but good. I think that's good. I think that she meant that in a good way. You know, unique. So I have this passion that I can't quite connect back to. It's sitting there in paper form, but it feels outside. Like I didn't write it at all. Like someone else wrote those jokes and I read them for the first time and think, hey, that's good, I'd read that, but can't quite believe in my heart that I wrote it. I don't think I have a sense of myself at all. I don't have a sense of the stretch of me being bounded. Like, I just continue outwards. That sounds awkward, but strangely okay if I were a Buddhist. Maybe I should become a Buddhist. I'm nearly halfway there already, being unbound. Literally. You know, because my book's not published. Not funny, sure. Not supposed to make jokes in therapy. I read that once. Did Freud say it? Fucking Freud. Is it time? Oh, God. And now I'm thinking about time and I can't remember where I was up to. Oh, that's right. I was complaining about my bloody thoughts and my bloody book and boring myself, me and you, stupid. I guess I should go. You're not going to say anything? Is this like some kind of new therapy thing? Just don't talk and see how long the client can go on babbling? Oh, you nodded. That was so satisfying. You nodded. You gave me something, like I exist, like I'm really here and you're here and I was just here right now. Oh, okay. No more time. Got it. Wow. I feel great. Well, your essays are back and I'd like to say how much I enjoyed reading them. I'm not kidding. I'm enjoying having you all in my class. And if you have any personal questions or queries, I mean, you know, questions about the final paper, come and find me in my office on Thursday during my consultation time at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursdays. You know, if you want to run a new question by me or just ask about structure or something or anything, I'm here to help. Great. And congratulations again. I put it out there in my lecture that students should come to see me. I'll be looking at every single one of them and thinking, are you desiring me? I'm not crossing any lines because all I'm doing is wondering, and wondering is really not desiring. But I do feel this new sense of curiosity. I wonder about how other people in the world feel about me. How do you feel about me? You know, you must have feelings. You sit there looking at people, and I'm not necessarily saying me, but all shapes of people, and one or two must come through that are your type. You know, that turn your light on. And what you do about that, what do you do about it? What does thinking cross the line? When does thinking cross the line into your dreams? You Freudians think about dreams, don't you? Do you have a confessor, like a high priestess, therapist, who you tell your shameful dreams to? Is it better or worse to give them voice? Is it right to encourage thoughts by speaking them? Or do we animate them by boiling them and bolting them silent into our subconscious? The way you look at me, sometimes I wonder what it is like to be like you. Filled up with people's words and secrets. What do you do with them? Do you just forget them? Those treasures that are gifted to you? Do they become mundane in your care? Lisa's a lecturer thinking about bonking her student, which I'm not, by the way. I'm really not. I'm more boring than that. I'm only thinking about myself and how it makes me feel. My words only make it about a metre outside of my body and then they fall to the ground. People don't even notice that they're treading on them. They all walk by in grey suits, treading on my words, which break into letters and are wedged into the ground, like bones in a field after battle to be found by archaeologists in centuries. And they would look at them and imagine stories how these words were used, like they never were. So typical. She needs to get over herself, but she's just all over the shop, and how pathetic. Another one of those people who say they're writing a novel. But I do think of you and how you sit there so still and how the crazy world revolves and you tether me and all the other souls like kites. I feel moved by you and your thousands of kites bouncing in the sky. I think I love you. I don't think I'll go for that contract. I've decided to stop therapy. I want my own poem, my own piece of paper. I've decided to become a professional dreamer. And I'm going to take a sedative, fix myself up to a needle and drip and pay someone to come by each week and change the IV bag, and I'll never more move from my bed until I either decay or float away without your tether. Thank you. Thank you for letting me find an authentic connection to other people and bodies and the words. I'm just going to live in it now and feel all the feelings that flow through me and surrender. It's like I've got no filter and no boundaries, and nothing is rubbing to keep me just from being water and merging with the ocean. I wonder if I'm having a psychotic break. I can see my words floating up into the air. I think you should call whoever you call and get someone to take me to a room with a bed and some walls and definitely a ceiling, because I'm feeling a bit lightheaded. I'm feeling like there's not much substance to my skin. I wonder if I could write now, if I could catch my words. Catch all my dreams that are flowing through my skin like water, and they'd flow into the computer and wash around like waves that ebb and flow and never have form, save for a moment when they smash and release like a wave on a deserted beach, like then the currents take them, where they smash again and they form and break and form and break. I'll go now. I think I should go now. I'll be fine now.
Blackout. The end. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you.
That's really well done. Thank you. Listening to my own words. Anyway, I did write that actually after a suggestion online where we were supposed to write a play a day, and the stimulus for this day was write a work where the character falls inappropriately in love and write completely the opposite of any way you normally write. So that's that play. All right, so I am going to introduce our final work, and it's by Phil Sanders again, who wrote the first play that we saw today. And Phil works for Western New South Wales Health in Bathurst, but previously he was a television script editor and script writer and wrote nearly 300 episodes of Home and Away and worked in-house at Channel 7 and for 10 years. And so I'd like to invite the actors on stage for this. Let's just see you all as I introduce you. There's a whole bunch of them. Everybody's come back. Great. All right. So we have Bill of Mortality, or The Shaking of the Sheets, a play by Phil Sanders with assistance from Daniel Defoe. And we'll talk to Phil in a little bit. So we have Josh Hayward as Crouch, Hudson Emery as Matthew, Kathy Cameron as the Searcher, and Nino Giudice as Digsby. All right. I'd like to exit before your entries. A printer's workshop in 1665. The printer, Josiah Crouch, in a leather apron, is setting out the letters for a handbill into the press as he talks.
Whatever else may be said about the current contagion, it cannot be said that it has proven fatal for the printing trade. No bills for the theatre and other entertainments, of course, but counter to this is the profusion of religious tracts and pamphlets I've been called upon to produce these last few months. They rail, for the most part, against the sins of mankind that have brought the good Lord in his despair to sow the seeds of death amongst his beloved children. Not that he failed to give us good warning of his intent, or so say those who believe the great comet that blazed across the heavens this last year gone was a sign from above. If that be true, then it's a shame that no one had the wit to interpret God's meaning before the tokens of death began to appear. Not that God himself, appearing on the roof of St. Paul's, would turn the worst sort away from their sins and abominations. In faith, though, I've never yet heard of a prediction that preceded the event it predicted, although that has not stopped me from printing out bills for astrologers, foretelling that the end of the world is nigh. Not to mention the small army of quack doctors selling their nostrums made up of the sweepings from an alehouse floor, which they do solemnly swear and guarantee to ward off the plagues of Egypt should they visit these shores. 'Tis sorry to relate that such melancholy times do bring out the worst in our people. Boy!
Yes, Master Crouch.
Run you along now to the clerk's office and bring me the latest figures and findings. And when you return, we will set up for the monthly bill of mortality.
Yes, Master Crouch.
Well?
I was just wondering, sir, if you have given any further thought to us leaving the city.
We are staying, my boy. Me, because I will not abandon my home and manufactory to rats and dogs and thieves. And you, because you are bound to me for another 12 months or more.
Yes, Master Crouch.
We have survived hale and hearty thus far by avoiding such crowds as breed the pestilence, and God willing, we shall continue to do so. The worst of plagues abates sooner or later. Now, be off with you.
He is not a bad master, and he rarely beats me, but he is stubborn. Methinks he will not leave because Master Darby, whose print shop is nary a street away, is stubborn too, and will not leave either. They both fear that if one should leave, the other will steal away their trade, which is most likely. So me and William, Master Darby's apprentice, are condemned by our articles to suffer the agonies of wondering if the plague will smite us as it has done so many. Condemned too by being of the middling sort. I have seen the better sort, the nobility and the gentry and their wives and children and servants, making their way out of the city, their wagons laden with their movables. Perhaps I should have offered myself up as a servant and forgone my apprenticeship. Perhaps now 'tis too late. Rumour has it that Parliament has ordered the turnpikes shut to prevent people travelling, and that the towns on the road will not suffer people from London to pass, for fear of bringing the infection along with them.
I am charged by the worshipful company of parish clerks with the printing of the bills of mortality designed. I sometimes think as much to affright the general population as to provide intelligence for the Lord Mayor and the government. 'Tis a thought I've had of late that should some future antiquary wish to look back and make a record of the plague's progress through this last year, he will find it writ large on my bills. See here, the first of the bills reflecting the visitation. Deaths from the plague, 2. Parishes affected, 1. These 2 gentlemen were Frenchies, merchants of some sort who, it was surmised, brought the pestilence with them from Holland, whether it came from Italy or perhaps the Levant or Turkey or Cyprus. As is well attested, pestilence always ferments first in foreigners. 'Twould be well, in my opinion, to shut down all ports and keep out all but Englishmen, and thereby deny entry to such foreign distempers. And now we have here the latest bill, and now our latest printing. Take note: death from the rising of the lights, 15. From lethargy, 1. From the stopping of the stomach, 9. From teeth, 121. Oh, here is one unfortunate burnt to death in a bed by a candle. And then the plague, 7,165. A number most frightful to be sure. But 'tis not the true cost, for it does not include Anabaptists, Quakers, Jews, and the like, who surely die in numbers comparable to those who attend the true church. And I would not even attest to the accuracy of that 7,165, given the most haphazard way that such figures are obtained.
I does the best I can, seeing as how I'm not a doctor. And there ain't no doctor going to go around doing what I does if he can help it. And rushed off me feet I am these days. I scarcely comes home from one taking, and there's another little red-eyed imp knocking at me door. Do you be the searcher, they says. I am, says I. Then come quick, mother, father, sister, auntie's been taken. So off I goes again to another house of death. And there'll be the corpse laid out, face all hideous and the tokens visible all over. Of course, sometimes it'll be the rising of the lights or the bloody flux, but it's the plague more often than not these days. So I tells them what they knows already and asks them for a shilling for me troubles. And if there's a nice shawl or a pair of boots the dear departed lady of the house has no further need of, I'll make a request for them and all, as is the custom with searchers. Or they never says no, being too busy thinking about their own most possible demise. Then off I go to report to the parish clerk, who writes it all down in his spidery scrawl before passing the address on to the foreman of the watch. Some do say 'tis a miracle I ain't succumbed to the distemper and gone to meet me maker myself, given the time I spends breathing in the dreadful miasma. 'Tis all a matter of taking the right warding off elixir, I says.
The Lord Mayor has put in place an order that houses visited by the pestilence, or even suspected of harbouring a victim, must be shut up for a month, and all its inhabitants contained therein with armed watchmen outside. Even should the rumour of plague be false, a month to be confined to a hovel, relying for sustenance on such family and friends as are untouched, is a horror in itself. But to be shut up with a wife or a husband or children already tainted and watch them die a dreadful death, knowing you are as certain as sorrow to follow them, why, there are no words to describe such a hellish fate. No wonder then that some have made their escape.
I lodged of late in Cheapside with a most respectable family, God-fearing people, with a young daughter, not yet 10, with the face of an angel. And I myself, being of an industrious and pious nature, was treated like a son by those good folk. We would spend many an evening reading the Gospels and praying for the betterment of the world. How passing strange it was then to see little Sarah come down with the chills, to see her hands and feet turn black, to see the blood spill from her mouth. Of course, we prayed with greater intensity, only to see her poor mother and wretched father, and last of all me, suffer the same fate. They all three died in agony and were taken away by the death cart, leaving me to suffer alone. It was a fate I could not contemplate, so made my escape through an unwatched window under the cover of a clouded scaped moon. I will die, and soon, but I want my passing to be under blue skies and in green fields, not to be entombed while I still breathe.
He ended his journey in Islington, where his body and soul parted company. In the week before his arrival, there died but 2 in Islington. The week after, there perished 17. 2 or 17, 100 or 7,000, all just numbers, marks made in a ledger by a parish clerk who sees not a name before him or the honest face of an ostler or the cheery smile that once lit the face of a young bride. There is not a soul in all of London who has not witnessed sights that will haunt their waking hours and their dreams forevermore, far past the time when they have forgot the sum of all the dead. I recall as one night I chanced to pass by the churchyard of St. Botolph and I heard the bellman approaching. I fell back into the shadows, knowing that he foretold the approach of the death cart. And sure enough, it came across the rise, accompanied by the linksmen whose torches flamed like the signposts to hell. Behind them came a staggering, grief-stricken wretch who fell to his knees as the cart was all of a sudden upended and his wife and several children roughly tumbled into the pit. Such a wailing I never wish to hear again. What? Have you been to the clerk's office already?
No, sir. I thought you should know there is a watchman but 2 doors away from our own, and he's marked the house with a cross.
Whose house? Master Drummond?
The same, sir, though I feared his mistress Drummond has been taken. I saw the searcher come out of the house carrying the yellow cloak the mistress was wont to wear.
2 doors away, eh? Get thyself to Tyson's yard to see if he has a wagon will carry our printing press. We'll make for my uncle's house in Tottenham.
'Tis far, sir.
Deep in the countryside, lad. Look lively now.
Into death.
I'll bring away the beggar, bring away the king, every man in his degree. I'll bring away the oldest and the youngest thing. Come to death and follow me. I'll bring away the merchant who made his money in France, and the crafty banker too. When you hear the piper, you and I must dance, the dance that everyone must do. Dance, dance, the shaking of the sheets. Dance, dance, when you hear the piper playing. Everyone must dance, the shaking of the sheets with me. All the politicians of high and low degree, lords and ladies great and small, don't think that you'll escape and need not dance with me. I'll make you come when I do call. It may be in the day, it may be in the night. Prepare yourselves to dance and pray that when the piper plays the shaking of the sheets, you may to heaven dance the way. Dance, dance, the shaking of the sheets. Dance, dance, when you hear the piper playing. Everyone must dance, the shaking of the sheets with me.
And the end. So that's the end of our plays today. Thank you so much for coming along. We're going to have a little bit of a chat with Phil, the writer of that work and the first work that we read, and also we'll have a chat with the actors. So if you have any questions, if you're on Facebook, write into the chat there, and Heidi and Kylie are going to collect the questions there. And hey Phil, and also then we'll have probably open up with the Zoom, some of the attendees there, so you guys can write in the chat as well, and maybe we'll open up for verbal questions. It'd be lovely to see the whole community there just when we're finishing up. Thanks. All right, so hey Phil.
Hi.
That was a cheery work.
I know. Well, I thought the subtitle of it could be "Things Could Be Worse."
So look, obviously it's very current. You wrote a book recently. But can you be a bit more like, can you tell us why these characters, where did that inspiration come from?
Well, the inspiration for the play, you know, that's fairly obvious, but I just came from the start of the whole crisis thing, when I just got really confused about how serious it was, and, you know, are we just making a fuss about nothing, or are we all going to get it? And I don't know why, but I recall Daniel Defoe having written a book called Journal of the Plague Year. So I went online, and it's available on Project Gutenberg. I didn't read it all, I have to say. And originally, and I realised that Daniel Defoe wrote it about 25 years after the plague. He was only a child at the time. And the original idea I had was Daniel Defoe interviewing people who'd lived through the plague. And then I've no idea why it sort of then was transmuted into the printer. Maybe, you know, seeing the illustrations of the bills of mortality, I think, oh well, you know, the print, that would be an interesting way, a different way of doing it, and perhaps having, you know, rather than people sitting at a table saying, oh, you know, I remember the play, you know, you can have a bit more movement by doing it that way. But I think it was just I suppose the way I think about things, that to look at, you know, something in a little bit of an offbeat way, you know, rather than sort of commenting on the current crisis, to look at, you know, previous ones, and looking at, you know, there are some similarities, you know, the social distancing sort of thing, shutting the roads, you know, having to stay in your own place, not going off to Islington, infecting the population there. So, you know, without sort of drawing, you know, sort of, you know, pointing the finger at these similarities, just leave people to, oh yes, that happened back in the 17th century as well. And I think it was probably a lot worse back then.
Yeah, I imagine. Great, thanks, Phil. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the screen, show everybody. If you guys want to open up your cameras, all the cast and writers, look, there's our community. Thanks so much, guys. That was so much fun. We put this together, you know, over the past probably the month that we've been doing it. And so thank you, everybody. I guess what I wanted to ask people is just to the actors, was there a difference in working in this medium than working on stage, or another medium that you work in? If you want to chime in. Yeah, Hudson?
I'll jump in because I have to leave quite soon. So I'll quickly answer that question, and then I'll be on my way. But first of all, lovely work. Congratulations to all the writers. I love it. So as an actor, this whole online world that we're now doing is, I was just saying before, it's like a masterclass in on-screen work. You suddenly feel very conscious about your eye line, and believe, like, the truth of the world is all in your eyes because the audience can see it. That's sort of all they get. So yeah, you suddenly feel quite exposed, and also that you can't really see your fellow performers' eyes in the same way that you could on a stage. They're not really there with you. It's this weird, like, webcam world. So I would say, yeah, that's my biggest hurdle, is this reevaluating how my eyes work and where they sit while performing this in this new world we're in.
Thanks.
And then I'll be on my way.
Yeah, Tarsia, does anybody else want to comment on the acting?
Yeah, I second what Hudson was saying. Definitely, the eyes is the biggest. And I think taking primacy away from the eyes, because that's probably our sort of greatest vehicle of expression, really, and what people kind of look for any kind of emotional truth. Then it becomes more about accentuating the voice, I guess, somehow finding meaning through voice. But again, the technological challenge there is, because I notice it in listening to others, is that there sometimes needs to be more deliberate delivery, sometimes a slowing down even, or more articulation, because sometimes there's some glitches as well, and certainly that kind of makes it difficult when there are passages that are fast or meant to be read with a particular pace. So yeah, there's a whole lot of challenges involved, without a doubt. So interesting. I mean, you know, when you're performing it, you kind of just sort of do your best, but then when you're in the audience role, then you know, it'd be interesting to see what other people pick up and what our audience picked up in terms of some of the technological challenges.
Yeah, thanks, Nino. So just to tell everybody out there, to make the eye line as close to people's cameras as possible, people weren't even actually looking at the Zoom, they were looking directly into their script and imagining they were speaking straight into the camera. So they weren't actually looking at their partner or themselves, a lot of them. So yeah, it's quite disembodied, because you're really not even, not being in the room with people, but you're not actually even seeing where you're speaking to. How about some of the other actors? Do you have some things to say about this?
I think that having little props in this sort of scenario works very well. You wouldn't have them normally. We wouldn't have had the sandwiches in our piece. But little things like that really bring it to life, and just little nods towards, because it's almost like you're doing a short film in close-up. So I think that's really nice, little sort of, you know, that can make a real difference for the Zoom medium in particular.
I think though we have to remember we were reading, you know, maybe the audience needs to be reminded, we were reading, so there's a difference between how you would act, I think, on Zoom and how we read, if you know what I mean.
Definitely, yeah, a big difference.
I think one of the challenges is how do you connect with the other actors through the medium. I think that's quite tricky, you know, and that's a really important aspect of the development of the work, and how the actors work and how they bring the script to life, is how you make that connection. I think that's a real challenge.
I think it would be, maybe the pieces would have been different if they'd been commissioned for Zoom, you know, rather than written as a stage play. You know, for example, in the first piece, where they're sitting, you know, they'd be sitting side by side with the steering wheel going like that on the stage, you know, sort of, and that's the way it was written. If, you know, saying, write the same thing for performance by Zoom, it would come out very different.
Yeah.
It's not quite TV, it's not quite radio, it's not quite theatre.
Somewhere in between.
Yeah. Something strange. People are now writing plays literally for people to be in a Zoom conversation, which is fabulous, kind of new playwriting sort of style. Anybody else, any other contributions, things that you've discovered?
I personally find it a lot harder reading off the screen rather than reading with hard copy. I feel like I can take in more off a piece of hard copy. And it was like I had to be my own auto-cueist, and I was trying to treat it like auto-cue, but knowing that where the words were, no matter how high I had them up towards my camera, I was not actually looking down the barrel of the camera unless I managed to look up. So if I was very disconcerting in the way I was doing it, I was trying to find a way to keep my eye line close to the camera, and I was losing my cursor and all sorts of things. So I was driving myself, and it was just hard, but like learning a bicycle, I would get better at it. And I would be interested to see myself back so that I would get immediate feedback as to what was and wasn't working. And that's the advantage of Zoom, is that we as actors possibly can look back at ourselves and see how we looked in the frame, because also we have to think about a frame and what we're bringing into the frame and what we think might be in the frame or what we might be hoping is not in the frame. We don't really know until we really get used to it. And because we couldn't really look at ourselves, even out of the corner of our eye, we couldn't quite see what was going on. And I think often when people are working in information programs, they usually have a monitor out of the corner of their eye so they know what they're doing in the frame. And I think that's something we probably have to learn. And it is very different to be framed. And where to use our vocal level, what's working. I did notice that with the other actors, I noticed that I felt distance just by the change in the voice. It wasn't disconcerting to have someone calling out close to the screen. That gave distance, which I thought was very interesting. That gave me that sense.
Yeah, we're dealing with technologies that we're not completely that are under our control. People have like a auto light adjust and also a microphone adjust that happened in some people's works. So yeah, where you're like, you can't hear what's happening. We have a question from Marianne to the writers, I think, or actually to anybody. Will Zoom plays become the new radio plays? That's the question. Anyone want to go for it?
Well, I mean, I think the difference between doing it on radio, that you've got much more scope when you can't, you can't see the actors. You can take them from, Earth to Mars, with a snap of the fingers and a quick sound effect. So I think the media, if we did do more plays by Zoom, I think it would be a very different medium still.
It would be good of us to start using green screen. Maybe, and giving ourselves just black backgrounds, or actually having a background, actually creating virtual sets. That's something we could do if we wanted to get that involved. And a green screen is just a matter of getting a green piece of material. I just haven't organised myself yet, but where I work up at Charles Sturt, our tech person spent a day pulling apart a green screen curtain from our rehearsal room and making little green screens for everyone. And I just haven't got round to work out how I'm going to put it behind me. But I think that gives you more options in terms of creating backgrounds. And I've noticed some people on Zoom are giving themselves a completely black background, which I think looks really cool. And I want to do that if I could just get my shit together, basically.
Yeah, trying to find the boundaries of what we can and can't do. Yeah. I mean, we also discussed that idea that because it's a reading and we're kind of to acknowledge the limitations of what we're doing, we kind of say, look, there's my bike. I am at home, this is not supposed to be something, it's not supposed to be a play, it's not supposed to be TV. This is Zoom. This is in our homes. So yeah, it's interesting. It's like, what are we like signing that we're acknowledging about the process?
And it'd be nice.
Sorry.
It'd be nice to see what happens if we were using Zoom, having learnt us, having the full production, in terms of having learnt our pieces, so that we're not worrying about a script and we can just talk down a camera or we work out our eye lines and we actually organise it so our eye lines are sort of right, or we've, as Marianne said, using Zoom as the medium, and as Phil said, we would write a kind of script where people aren't in the same room. They're not geographically in the same room, but they're having a conversation and interaction, which might be one, we could actually design it so it's right that they're in two disembodied places. And we're not reading off the script, so it'd be interesting what we would do and how much movement we'd have to move ourselves in the frame, move ourselves back, bring in props.
There's a challenge to our writers. Go for it. Next month, Bathurst Festival, May edition, June edition. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to all of the actors who've come in from Sydney, from Melbourne, from Cessnock, from Bathurst, from Millthorpe, or Orange, where you live now, and Janelle and Caves / Oberon, Melissa. So thank you all so much for contributing to the Bathurst Writers Festival. Next we have coming on is Kylie and Heidi, I think, are going to do like a feedback session. So that's the end of the festival. So thanks so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Fiona.
Bye.
See you next month.
Thank you, Fiona, for your amazing work getting us together. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And to Heidi.
Well done, Fiona.
And to Kylie for helping us. And as well, the wonderful writers. Me as an actor, I thank writers. So thank you. Ben Wade's been
everyone.
We're just actors, labourers, that's all.
Yeah, that's right. We actually have actors do it.
Just there for us. We know we're the most important part of the equation.
Yeah.